and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and I'm here today to do the reading for the Scorpio new moon partial solar eclipse that took place earlier on today. I apologize again for the lateness. I have been really busy this week, and this weekend I was away doing a course, so I didn't have the full time to kind of prepare myself for the actual writing. For those of you who don't know how I do my astrology readings, who haven't been over to see my channel, what I do is I intuitively interpret the astrology, but I write it down because there's a lot of information, and so I didn't get the time to do that, which is why I'm a little bit backwards again. Also, I've still got Saturn squaring my sun, so that's making a big difference in my life as well. Blockages and restrictions and things. So anyway, I'm here now and I'm going to give you my personal intuitive interpretation of what I think this new moon partial solar eclipse is all about. So I'm reading from my laptop, and I'm calling this particular reading the new moon partial solar eclipse in Scorpio, digging up the buried. So before we go any further, of course we have the new moon, and the new moon energy is always about something starting, something fresh, something new, something being brought out into the new energy, building something up, starting. And then we have the new moon in Scorpio energy itself, which is saying work through your fears, which is very relevant at this time. I personally do believe that there's going to be a lot of fear and a lot of scaremongering going on out there at this time. There already is, but I do think that this new moon in Scorpio is going to kind of ramp that all up. So the fixed moon energy, Scorpio is a fixed sign, so it's saying hold your vision, stay steadfast, stay true to yourself, don't go to extremes one way or another. Try and keep that kind of middle path energy if you can. Don't let other people trigger you or wind you up to the point where you want to go to an extreme, because there is that possibility with this new moon energy as well, an extreme emotional. It can, Scorpio can be extremes of things. So lastly, we have don't let your past hold you back, because this is the South Node, and the South Node is the energy here. The reason why we are having the new moon eclipse is because the South Node is in Scorpio, and so it's saying don't let the past hold us back. We need to release the past, we need to let that go, which is why I'm calling this digging up the buried as well, because I believe that until we let go of what we've kept hidden, even from ourselves, we can't move forward. So first of all, I am going to pull an overall energy card, and these are the cards that wanted to come out today, and that one has already decided he wants to come out, so that was really quick, sorry about that. And we have Green Tara, and Green Tara is all about removing obstacles. She's known as the Supreme Protectress, and she's a blending of white, yellow and blue colours, which symbolise pacifying, increasing and destroying. Sorry, I can't quite... Okay, fuse to reveal the radiant Green Tara. So the elements of pacifying, increasing and destroying all fuse together and create Green Tara. So the Cosmic Mother is always ready to come to our rescue from the 8 great terrors. She is the great protectress against all harm and ill will. Just as a child is fearless in the presence of the Divine Mother, lead your life free of fear. The material world is but a delusion. Supreme protectress. So again, we've got fear coming up and saying basically not to get caught up in that fear. Don't let that fear override you. And it is the supreme protectress energy as well. So let's just put the green Tara up there. And behind me, starting off with the cards here, I'm kind of in the middle because I've got some cards on either side because I couldn't fit them all in one row. But we start off with the moon and the sun together because that's where they are in the sky. And then we have Pluto, which is the transformative energy. That's the ruler of Scorpio, the sign that they're in. The 8th house is endings and beginnings, and that's the house that this solar eclipse is taking place in. And then we have the water element, which is sensing or feeling, and emotions as well, ruled by water. And on this side we have the south node, which is all about our karmic life's debts. And then we have the Scorpio energy itself, which is very similar to the Pluto energy. It's all about transform, so it's I transform. And lastly, the solar eclipse, which is a revolutionary energy. It's an energy that shifts things very, very quickly. It's also an energy that lasts for 6 months as well. So it's not just something that happens like the new moon normally would, last for about a fortnight. This is going to take us right the way through to around about February, March of 2023. And possibly even longer than that. And the effects may well be felt as a knock-on thing even longer. So, sorry, I've got something stuck to my lip or a hair or something. It's a bit irritating. So this new moon is a partial solar eclipse that is happening on the 25th of October at 11:49 AM. That's UK time, and it has been different in other parts of the world. So check out that area where you live to see if you are going to be in the visible path of this partial eclipse wherever you are. I was hoping to get this out earlier, but due to circumstances beyond my control, it didn't manage to happen. So the new moon partial solar eclipse is occurring at the 2 degrees point of the Pluto and Mars ruled, highly intuitive, powerfully psychic, and totally tuned into the emotions of others sign. To the extent, and this is talking about how highly intuitive and how much the extent of these traits can be used creatively or destructively as well. So because Scorpio is so intuitive and powerfully psychic, and they pick up on other people really, really easily, they can use that, whether they know it or not. They can use that either as a creative or a destructive process, especially in business matters that involve their love of power and money, where they excel at reading other people's body language as easily as reading an open book. So this is Scorpio energy, and this is where this very intense, emotionally charged partial solar eclipse is taking place in the fixed energy of the watery realm. As this is taking place in the early degrees of Scorpio, it is once again, like the previous new moon, at the same degree. So the new moon in Libra was also at that 2 degree point, and it's bridging the energies between the previous sign Libra and Scorpio. So, which means if you have any planets or points between the 07 to 0 degrees of Scorpio, or the 27 to 29 degrees 59 minutes of Libra, or the same degrees of opposing 180 degrees Taurus Aries, or the 90 degree squares of Leo Cancer and Aquarius Capricorn, this partial solar eclipse will be affecting you directly. So check out your own personal chart to see where these degrees, especially the 0-2 degrees of Scorpio, lie. And if you don't have your own personal chart, there will be a link in the description down below for you to go and check that out for yourselves. I strongly advise everybody to have their own birth charts and to know what is going on in their lives when it comes to what's going on in the heavens as well. So this 2 degrees of Scorpio, so this area of your life where it will be felt the most intently with regard to the house placement, so that also helps as well. If you have your own natal chart, you'll be able to find out where that 2 degrees of Scorpio lies for you as to which house placement it's in. If it's in the first, the second, third, fourth, so on. There's 12 houses. And so whichever house that is falling in, that is the energy and the theme around how it's going to play out for you yourself. So, and if you don't know exactly what I mean by that as well, there is plenty of information online where you can go and check out what house relates to what. So for the collective, this is the 8th house that this is happening in, that relates to the mysterious, the hidden. It covers things like backroom dealings, corruption, other people's money, taxes, poisons, toxic waste, plutonium, and nuclear power. Scorpio rules the sexual organs of both men and women, so the 8th house also governs sex, lust, seduction, deviant pleasure, spying, predatory behaviour, stalking, manipulation, blackmail through the use of sex, sexual magic and ritual. So, and that also includes things like mutation of body parts, including tattoos, which personally I think some tattoos are absolutely amazing, like beautiful things to see. But I'm just including it here as the fact that it is something that is a Scorpio kind of energy about it. It is the deeper, darker, seedier exploration of our fears, as well as self-loathing, in opposition to Venus-ruled self-worth. So Scorpio is opposing Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So Venus is all about our self-worth, and Scorpio is more about our self-loathing in that sense, which is why we can want to mutate our bodies, and it's also got something to do with the deeper feeling of things as well. So anyway, moving on, this is the house of and the sign of all the taboos that we need to go and dig up, like the vampire, as these are aspects of human nature that thrive best in the dark. This is the house of birth, death and rebirth, as well as transformation of whatever we have buried in the depth of our emotional graveyard, bringing out those skeletons with the courage of Mars in order for us to face our inner demons and release them. It is little wonder that Halloween is celebrated by all things considered of the night type creatures during the Scorpio season. Scorpio is unique to all other zodiac signs as it has 3 different symbols that represent its subconscious levels. The scorpion, which can be revengeful with a poisonous sting in its tail. That's the more based, lower vibration of the Scorpio energy. And then there's the eagle, which has kind of broken free of those earthly bounds to see things from a different perspective. So it rises above the ego-driven Scorpio. And of course also the Mars energy there as well. Mars is the ego, the self. And lastly, the phoenix that transforms completely by releasing all the negative aspects that have held it chained to its past actions. So through a state of total acceptance that we are who we are, not despite of, but because of all our past trauma and experiences over many lifetimes of birth, death and rebirth on our evolutionary cycle. Pluto is also the recycler of souls, as well as the teacher of impermanence, which is a big lesson we are living through during this part of our collective soul's journey. Particularly at this time, it's really kind of highlighting this Pluto Scorpio energy. So at the time of this partial solar eclipse, new moon in Scorpio, the ruler, Pluto, at 26 degrees and 10 minutes of Capricorn, is still moving really slowly while he continues to be in an opposition with his feminine counterpart, Black Moon Lilith. And she's at 21 degrees 35 in Cancer, which is the natural home of the moon. Black Moon Lilith isn't an actual planet. It is a point created by the dark side of the moon when she is furthest away from Earth. It is the point where she crosses over the ecliptic path of the sun. As it is a side of the moon that we never get to see, and the moon represents our emotions, Black Moon Lilith is symbolic of our darker, repressed, hidden shadow side. And just like Pluto, this includes all the taboos, specifically, again, around sex. So this energy is still activating the cardinal axis between the shadow side of both the patriarchal father of Saturn, which is where we find Pluto, ruled by Capricorn, and the matriarchal mother of moon-ruled Cancer, which is where we find Black Moon Lilith at this time. So both of which exist within us on a personal level, both the patriarchal father and the matriarchal mother. Within, we all have both that masculine and feminine energy. We also have the darker aspects of those within us as well, and we need to kind of recognize that and acknowledge it. So even if one is more repressed by the other due to our outer appearances as well, we still both have like masculine driving energy or more feminine nurturing energy. So this is powerful energy on its own. This opposition between Pluto and Black Moon Lilith is very powerful energy. Again, kind of quite dark energy in that sense. Because of what they both represent. So, but with everything it represents, but here we have two T-squares being created from this opposition as well. So the first is connecting with Mercury at 22 degrees 39 minutes in Libra, making Mercury the focal release point of this energy. The second is the second T-square is like a laser beam honing in on this partial solar eclipse with a stellium of energies all in Scorpio. So that's Sun, Moon, and Venus is also there as well. So that's three energies. More than three energies or planets is known as a stellium in one sign. Sorry, my nose is getting a bit funny. So this is really adding an extra emphasis to all those scorpionic traits as explained previously, as well as bringing in the Venus energy around our values, how we give and receive love in relationships, whether or not we feel safe to express those feelings of love, or do we feel we have had to bury them deep. As I said before, this is the time of digging up the buried so it can be released. So this partial solar eclipse is going to bring forth a whole lot of nasty for the world to feel, as apart from the eclipse itself, we still have Venus at 2 degrees and 39 minutes, hidden behind the sun, in what is known as her superior conjunction. So her superior conjunction means that she's at her full because she's moving forward, rather than when she's in her retrograde and is kind of waning in a way, so there's less energy there. But this is a superior conjunction. But even so, she's still thought to be in the underworld at that time when she disappears behind the sun. It was believed that she went into the underworld. And she is, in fact, in her detriment or exile in Scorpio. She's not happy there. And of course, the underworld is also the domain that is ruled by Pluto as well. So that kind of emphasizes even more of that energy. So Venus in detriment or exile is a placement of stress and tension for her. Here her presence is either negative or non-existent, on top of her already being in the underworld as well. So it feels to me, it's like the removal of her light from the sky. And Venus represents beauty, love, relationships, sensuality, fertility, our values, how much we value ourselves, as well as our growth and abundance. And at this time, it's going to feel like being plunged into a world of darkness, where we may struggle to find our inner light at a time when all appears to be filled with doom and gloom, and all that is good, bright and loving in the world seems lost. The moon too is in a difficult place, because she's also she's in fall in Scorpio, which is her weakest position. So here she is losing her influence as her emotions are hidden in the sign that is all about the secrets, and keeping things in the dark. So we may also experience at this time, like, because both Moon and Venus are very feminine energies, they both relate to the female side of our personalities. And so because they're both kind of not in a good place at this time, it could mean that we're going to see an excess of very kind of masculine driven energy around this period of time, particularly with Pluto and Black Moon Lilith making that opposition as well. So it could be very full on, energy that we're going to experience. Very, like I said, very masculine, very patriarchal, very in your face, and very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, not just action oriented, but also very like domineering in a way, quite a domineering energy that we could like feel as though we have to do things even though we may not want to do them, or the world may feel that it's moving into that kind of scenario with that it's being controlled by a very masculine driven idea at this time, while the Moon and Venus kind of disappear. Or yeah, and also Venus isn't going to come back out for a while, so anyway, so so this laser-like focus with both Pluto and Black Moon Lilith is about to show us an extreme version of acting out of a desire to keep hidden all secrets, dirty dealings, and anything that the established powers have manipulated their way into through lies, deceit, and corruption. Regardless of the consequences and who gets hurt along the way, the establishment are in protection mode. They are scrambling about frantically, as everything must be kept out of sight and out of mind, or the consequences for them will not be pretty. They are being backed into a corner which everyone knows is when a wild beast is always at its most dangerous. So keeping people in the dark is the main objective here. So, however, Mercury is also part of this partial solar eclipse, as he is conjunct the Sun and the Moon, while also being in another powerful T-square with Pluto and Black Moon Lilith. Mercury is acting as the release valve on this pressure cooker, which means what has been in the dark and hidden is about to be verbalized in a purging, cathartic way, some of which will be a real eye-opener for many. Personally, we could also find ourselves expressing through our shadow side of our more negative mind. This is also a time of huge lessons in self-awareness, the words we choose to say, the way we say them, the tone of voice behind them, not only with the internal dialogue we have running through our own heads, but also with all relationships with the other that act as mirrors for us to see ourselves reflected by showing us our triggering points in particular. Mercury is also trine with Mars at 25 degrees 25 minutes in the sign ruled by Mercury, Gemini, so thereby adding even more emphasis to this connection. as Mars is now slowing right down as he gets ready to station retrograde at 25 degrees and 36 minutes, sorry, of Gemini on the 30th of October. So he's really barely moving, really. He's only got another literal like 11 minutes to go, which in relative terms is going to take us up to the 30th of October. So Mars is the planet of direct action, assertiveness and aggression. It is our masculine warrior nature, as well as our competitive nature and the need to survive. And again, male or female makes absolutely no difference. We all have that masculine warrior nature. Some have it more than others. Again, that will depend on the natal chart, etc. So Mercury is our communication, our lower learning monkey mind from our early education. So it's the mind that is kind of easily programmed in a way, and it is the way we word and say things. Mars in Gemini is like the overstimulation of our brain. So we are going to see the ramping up of the weaponization of words even more, along with the Gemini traits of segregation and separation, as Gemini likes to catalogue, categorize and group things together to make sense of them, which Gemini can do with lightning speed. As Gemini is a sign of duality, we could also be feeling very aware of both sides of our brains, almost like a split personality, arguing and disagreeing with ourselves or others, as Gemini does like to hear both sides of a story before making any major decision. However, with Mars firing us up and energizing our thinking in a sign that is already quick thinking, there could be a danger of leaping to conclusions, forcing us into rash and hurried decisions under an immense sense of urgency to act. We could also hear a lot more strong and angry words being spoken and not holding back on how we think and feel at this time, especially concerning anything to do with rules, regulations and censorship, with Mercury in the sign that represents the idea of justice and equality in a fair, balanced and harmonizing system. The Libra energy is again activating the energies around the ideas, views and opinions of what is fair and equal in our justice systems. And we are seeing and hearing a lot about this kind of thing, particularly if you are tuned into more alternative media. We are hearing a lot more also about the weaponization of the court systems themselves, the justice systems, more so than ever before, and especially in the USA, because it is undergoing that radical transformation, which is due to the Pluto natal return, which I have spoken about quite a few times now, and we are coming up for the third and final time in late December. So things are still going to be very radical over these coming months ahead for the US. So Mars, who is the original ruler of Scorpio, is also just coming off of a waning trine with Saturn, and Saturn has just stationed direct at 18 degrees 35 minutes of Aquarius on the 22nd of October here in the UK. I think it might have been the 23rd in other places in the world, but Saturn has yet to move forward. He's stationed direct, like just before this new moon energy, but he's again very, very barely moving, if at all, because he's kind of picking up that energy after having stood still. He then has to kind of start moving forward again, and his energy and all his traits, which include things like hardship, difficult harsh times, blockages, restrictions, traditionalism, which in Aquarius is manifesting around what you can and cannot say without getting labelled or cancelled, are going to be on full display at this time, and everyone is going to have their own opinion on everything, which is going to clash with others' opinions, causing more friction and competition around different conditioned viewpoints. Saturn, though, can also give us a steely backbone because we've learnt certain lessons, and Mars is also about the self, our warrior nature of courage and bravery. So this could also be about standing up for our individual sovereign rights, standing strong and not backing down on our personal thoughts, beliefs and opinions when challenged, kind of really knowing who we are at that core value level. And so something I personally believe we are going to experience a lot more of during Mars's transit through Gemini, which is starting really from this solar eclipse, especially Saturn is in a much stronger trine with Mercury. So this kind of standing strong in ourselves is really kind of being brought to the forefront at the time of this solar eclipse as well. Especially Saturn, as I was saying, is in a much stronger trine with Mercury than he is with Mars right now as well. So this is going to change as we move, as Mars retrogrades, in early November. So he's going to start moving in early November backwards, and he's going to return to have another look at the actions we took and the decisions we made from early September, which was when he entered his shadow. So Mars will once again trine Saturn from the first week in November. During this period, we could experience the consequences of conversations or actions taken from mid-September during the previous Mars trine with Saturn. So while we are in this period, Mars will be activating the voice of the people and pouring out more truth as well with this Mars-Mercury connection. So some of this is going to fire up as well just around the kind of midterms in the US at the time of the full moon lunar eclipse as well. So that's going to be a really big kind of triggering point, shall we say. But the more the establishment try to clamp down and refuse to listen to the voice of the people, the more figurative logs they will be throwing on this emotional and mental bonfire, and the more passionate and determined the people will become for their voices to be heard, which will be a major theme right the way through until mid-March, under the umbrella of this eclipse season of Scorpio and the Taurus energy. So that's the Taurus and the Scorpio energy under the umbrella of both these eclipses that are going to take place, like the lunar eclipse that's going to take place as well. And this is because Mars in Gemini is really kind of firing up that need to verbalize how we really think and what we really kind of want action-wise as well. What we want to see, the actions that we want to see taken, as well as the actions that we ourselves believe that we should be taking. So the eclipse energy is a time of massive permanent changes on the world stage as well as individually, as again it will show up in the energy in whichever house it is taking place in. So at the time of this solar eclipse we still have Jupiter and Manway conjunct the world axis. Manway has just slipped back into Pisces, so he's highlighting the more spiritual, connected consciousness of the world and how everything ripples out and affects us all in some way, particularly the major decisions that are made. And at the same time we have Jupiter on the very edge of Aries. So he's at 0 degrees and 15 minutes. So he's again accentuating the self, our individual identity, along with our belief systems, which we may try to enforce on others or they on us. So both of these energies are square with Mars, which is magnifying and expanding that warlike message on the world stage and building the narrative for something major likely to happen. Fortunately, both Manwë and Jupiter are benevolent energies. So it is more about the exaggerated story that is being put out there by the established media than the actual reality behind it. So again, like, don't listen to the news, don't read the newspapers, because the story that they're putting out there may not necessarily be the reality of what's actually happening, but it's what they want us to believe is happening. And there's a complete reason behind that as well, why they push that narrative. So sadly, it is the job of the established media to feed the fears, propaganda, lies and deceit to keep us all in a lower vibration, which means like we're much easier to control if we're in that lower vibration, and we're less able to think for ourselves and we stay more focused on what they are pumping out. So the more fear-related, lower vibrational energy we get into, the more we get caught up in that whole drama and that whole kind of like fear and worry and stress, and it just kind of feeds itself. So we need to watch out for that as well, because with both Mars and Scorpio energy being in the limelight, this is going to bring up the possibilities of playing on our worst fears and nightmares. And with Mars square to Neptune at 23 degrees and 3 minutes, there is likely to be a lot of confusion, miscommunication, misunderstandings ramping up as we are dealing with the unknown realm, the deeper consciousness that is easily programmed or programmable, which is kind of what's happening every time we switch on the news or switch on the TV or read the newspaper. It's like feeding what's already there, what we've been programmed in many ways to already believe from our early educational years. And not to question that narrative, because the experts always know best. And so this kind of program is something that takes place without us really being aware that it's happening as well. And at the same time as we've got this Mars square to Neptune, Neptune is also sextile to Pluto, and there is a lot of emphasis on death itself at this time, especially around a certain medical procedure, and people just seem to be kind of falling down all over the place at the moment, and nobody seems to know why, which is quite interesting. Nobody seems to be joining the dots, or very few people, particularly in established media or in, you know, people in seats of power, etc., are very kind of unaware of why this is happening. But a lot of it is to do with the fact that we are literally dealing with a death cult, and they really just want to purge the planet at this time as well. So the less attention they pay to it, the less likely they think that we will also notice these things going on. So for an actual eclipse, there are two reasons that it happens, and they are the head and the tail of what our ancestors believed was a dragon or serpent demon that would devour the sun and then the moon at certain times of their cycles. In Vedic astrology, these are known as Rahu, which is the dragon's head, and Ketu, which is the dragon's tail, which our ancestors were convinced were shadow planets that chased the sun and the moon in the sky until they got close enough to swallow them. So that's what they thought this dragon energy was. They thought they were like shadow planets that would devour after they caught them. Once they got successful and they actually managed to catch up with these, like with the sun and the moon, they would then eat them. So today we know that when the moon moves north across the ecliptic path of the sun, she creates a point of incision that modern Western astrology calls the North Node, which relates to Rahu. And likewise, when she moves south across the ecliptic path, she creates the South Node, or Ketu. Whichever sign these two nodes are in, and they always oppose each other, these two nodes are always exact same degrees in opposition. So whichever sign that they're in, and they always move retrograde as well, that's where we will find the eclipse energy happening. So both of these nodes have karmic or fated consequential energy. The North Node signifying where we are heading, like the North Star guiding us home. And the South Node, on the other hand, is what we are leaving behind, what is no longer karmically helping our soul's growth. It is the culmination of our karmic actions. It is what we need to face about our collective past so we can move forward unburdened and uncluttered from everything we really only have attachments to in our mind, that emotionally still have the ability to drag us back in. So the South Node energy is where we return to in times of trauma, as it is familiar and easy for us. It is what we already recognise. Which is why people can also get stuck in the South Node energy as well. Instead of moving into that North Node energy, people stay in the South Node energy because, like I said, it's familiar. They recognise it. It's like a comfort zone energy to them. It's easy because it's something that they already understand. Whereas heading towards the North Node is much more harder because it's energy that we haven't dealt with yet. We're needing to kind of like, it's the new that's coming in. It's the new energy. And this energy changes with these nodes as well every 18 months. So as it moves out of Scorpio, it will go into Libra. And that will be the next energy that we'll be dealing with. So Venus conjunct the Sun in her superior phase, and having begun her journey across the Sun on the 22nd October at the last degree of Libra, at the time of this new moon partial solar eclipse, has an extra emphasis on relationships, which are having a light shone on them over the next month. And that's because Libra is not going to reappear until mid-November. So mid to late end of kind of November time, and she will appear as the morning star then as well. So the Sun and Venus come together around every 9.5 months, which is part of their much larger 8-year cycle, at the end of which Venus returns to around the same degree near the same date. On the 22nd, Venus was creating a new star point at halfway through her cycle, which will culminate on the 24th of October 2026 at 0 degrees 45 minutes of Scorpio. So it's also going to be next to this eclipse point as well in 4 years' time. And before I forget, also this solar eclipse energy is also activating the energy from the last solar eclipse, which took place in Taurus back in April. I think it was late April that energy happened. So again, that's kind of activating that energy, because I think that was round about, don't quote me, but I think it was possibly around about 6 degrees, maybe something like 6 degrees, 3 to 6 degrees. but I know that it's within that orb of influence of this solar eclipse energy again. So it's kind of reactivating and bringing that back as well. So if anything from Mars, sorry, from May forward can also kind of suddenly come back around again as well. So so yeah, on the 24th of October in 2026, Venus is going to be in her inferior conjunction, which means she is going to be moving retrograde. So if we go back 4 years to October the 26th, 2018, we find Venus at 3 degrees, 6 minutes of Scorpio. Again, very close to this solar eclipse energy. So this eclipse and Venus conjunction is like a continuation of this Venus dance, which now helping us to release our old patternings that form our relationships, showing us our coping mechanisms in the past, as well as the power dynamics we create with others. Is it time to surrender our need for power and manipulation over another emotionally, or is it for us to step into our power and claim our emotions? At this time, we are being given a glimpse of the growing awareness of what has been changing and developing within our own dynamics and the energies involved, especially when it comes to our baggage and bringing our skeletons to the table. We are being given the opportunity to purge our old toxic way of being in relationships, stemming from our past pain and trauma, and in turn move into an approach based on what our heart values instead. And I think this is all connected as well to the fact that Venus is also like going through this difficult time as she's eclipsed by the sun and the moon as well, and also in the underworld herself as well. So she's down there kind of re-experiencing a lot of this for herself, which we are actually going to kind of see play out in many ways. So we are being given the opportunity, okay, so from our past pain and trauma, and in turn move into an approach based on what our heart values instead. And this is a process that doesn't just happen overnight. It takes shifts in our emotional body, and that is telling us we are no longer willing to accept and carry the burdens of other people's emotional baggage as well. As we release our own, we will no longer attract that same energetic vibration into our lives. The South Node is creating this partial eclipse at 13 degrees 46 minutes Scorpio. Of course, the North Node is opposite that, while he is still square with Saturn in Aquarius, as is the North Node in Taurus, both maintaining their long-lasting T-square, which is helping create the deep sense of polarization we are experiencing in the collective. And this is mostly manifesting through the old, traditional, reliable, structured parts of our life coming to closures, which people are still trying desperately to maintain, while our new values, relationships, ideologies, ways to sustain growth are developing in the background. The North Node continues to conjunct Uranus at 17 degrees 31 minutes, which is really pushing for the new, innovative, and as yet to be experienced future to come through. But both he and the North Node have been held back by this square with Saturn, which has been ongoing for quite some time now. And will continue right through until 2023 as well. So it's not just going to stop anytime soon. And really we're seeing it almost, for me, it's almost like a vibrational thing as well. It's like the lower vibrational energy kind of shifting from the higher vibrational energy. It's like a kind of a parting of the ways in some way, like And it kind of gives me, I don't know if you've ever seen the dark crystal, but it's kind of got a similar kind of energy to that, with the kind of the skeksis. If people have ever seen the dark crystal, you've got the skeksis on one side, which is like the darker element that has kind of separated itself from the, I can't remember what the other ones are called right now, but they're more the kind of like mystics. They might even be called the mystics, but they're more that kind of more positive. They are looking for unity, bringing things back together. They understand nature and how it works, and that everything is connected, and that's their aim. Their aim is, because they have divided, they have become separated, and basically it's kind of the same energy that has really like polarized. And that's what I'm kind of feeling and seeing, is that this lower vibrational energy can't work with the higher vibrational energy. So it's kind of like chaos and like craziness and just like extremism. And then you've got this more higher vibrational energy that is heading towards that new, that unknown, but kind of being beckoned forward, if you like. So this is that Saturn square with Uranus and the North Node, which with Saturn now standing still in the sky, is also particularly powerful in creating blockages, restrictions and blackouts from the sign that represents we the people, Aquarius. And Saturn is also helping to bring out the hive mind mentality, where everyone has to think, act and behave the same, with the extreme idea of credit score ratings in order to trace, track and criminalise anyone who doesn't conform, which may look like it's winning, but the upcoming full moon lunar eclipse is going to be a massive, and I mean massive, wake-up call. So the path of this eclipse is very interesting, as it will be moving across and therefore viewable from most parts of Europe, weather permitting. But its main focus of attention has been on central Russia, Moscow especially. It is not as strong where it touches Ukraine, Belarus, North Iran, Afghanistan, all the stands, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan in particular, all the way down to central India. And to a lesser degree, it's also hit Poland, Czechia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Oh, and the United Arab Emirates as well. So most of these areas we hear a lot about already, and when an eclipse occurs over the top of them, we will be hearing a lot more, as their destiny is about to be affected. One more aspect that this partial solar eclipse is making is with Pholus, the centaur at 4 degrees 36 of Capricorn, which will be really highlighting the toxic, poisonous creations that have been hidden in the biolabs, amongst other dark, sinister, shadowy, clandestine behaviour of these European countries, that Russia has a lot of data and information on. And with Black Moon Lilith trine Neptune, it is all about to be revealed. So the Sabian symbol for this 2 degrees Scorpio is a broken bottle and spilled perfume. And this symbol implies something fragile and beautiful that may somehow be shattered or lost. It can also show the need to let things go and not hang on to them, which is very apt at this time with this South Node Scorpio energy. That's exactly what we're needing to do. There will be times of building up or concentrating your emotions until they are suddenly let out. There may be little that you can do about an outburst, but you may need to be careful of what you do as you sort things out. I will say that when I first started writing about this and I saw that the Mercury and Mars energy was trine, and also that Mars had recently just come off of a trine with Saturn as well, and the Pluto Black Moon Lilith opposition that was happening square, T-square, with this actual partial solar eclipse energy. I just got this image of this kind of face, or this big mouth. It was like this big mouth that just opened up, and the whole load of, like, for want of a better word, a whole load of crap just came kind of pouring out, like this dark kind of like release of a lot of yuck, a lot of nasty, like, yeah, just a lot of stuff that needs to be let out. And that was the kind of image that came into my head first of all. So okay, so you need to be careful of what you do as you sort things out, and sometimes things need to be broken so that their content can be released and fully appreciated or revealed. The smell of perfume can release memories of love, longing and desire, but also anger, hurt or jealousy, which are very scorpionic traits again. So the more kind of positive aspects of this are memories lingering on, spilled emotions, scents or aromas, upsetting people, shattered emotions, chiropractors, back surgeons, genie let out of the bottle, and breaking glass. And the more kind of lower base energies of this are things looking good but contents are disappointing, the desire for drama, bad smells, substance abuse, emotional mess, smelling salts, passing out, accidents and loss. And I'm just going to quickly dive down here because the card has fallen on the floor, and this is a card from the Divine Feminine Energies here, and we have got the Rita of Cassia, possibly, that's how it's pronounced, Cassia, and she is the patroness of impossible causes. And she says, I am miraculous. My prayers create powerful channels of possibility. So where are you, Rita? Rita of Cassia, she's page 13, I believe. Yep, page 13. Unlucky for some, auspicious for others. So, what is Rita of Cassia wanting to tell us? Saint Rita of Cassia's life demonstrates the power of prayer to shift even what appears to be an impossible cause. She was born Margherita Lotti in 1381 in Italy to noble parents. She is associated with bees because as a child it is said that they swarmed her but never stung her. That's interesting because that's kind of a scorpionic thing as well, stinging. And bees are symbolic of Mary and of the diligent work that must be done to gather honey, or the immortal sweetness of Christ's love. Although Rita wanted to enter a convent, she was forced to marry Paolo Mancini and had her first child at age 12. That's kind of Black Moon Lilith stuff right there. Her husband was a wealthy nobleman who had many enemies in Cassia. That's very scorpionic. Rita endured abuse and infidelities, but through prayer and kindness, she converted him to Catholicism. And that's interesting. He then renounced the family feud known as La Vendetta. So again, kind of abuse and infidelities, again, Scorpio energy, Black Moon Lilith energy. So even though Paolo had become a new man, a member of the feuding family murdered him for his previous acts. That's more Scorpio energy, that's like an act of revenge. Rita's two sons wanted to avenge their father's death, but before they could, both died of dysentery. After the death of her husband and sons, Rita wanted to enter the monastery of St. Mary Magdalene in Cassia. She was given the condition that her family had to reconcile with the family that had killed her husband before she could gain entrance. Rita prayed to her patron saints John the Baptist, Augustine of Hippo, and Nicholas of Talinto to assist her in creating peace between the two rival families. The bubonic plague was ravaging Italy at that time and happened to take several members of both families. Again, a lot of death involved here. This was enough hardship that they agreed to relinquish the feud. Rita entered the St. Mary Magdalene Monastery at the age of 36. Catholic legend says that she was transported into the monastery by her three patron saints via levitation. And legend also relates that while she was meditating on Christ at age 60, a ray of light pierced her between the eyes. The stigmata remained there until her death of tuberculosis in the monastery in 1457. So when your soul selects her card, despite popular belief, Saint Rita isn't about suffering or martyrdom. Not in this context. Here she is about the miracles that happen when we choose to be steadfast about something or someone. This does not mean remaining in a situation that is harmful to us. It means knowing that we can believe anything is possible and that everyone is ultimately forgivable. Because forgiveness isn't about someone else, it's about freeing ourselves. Again, kind of like dealing with our negative emotional baggage. So we might have to draw fierce boundaries and possibly never see this person again, but we can pray from any distance that a light larger than our own transforms them, that a love that's greater than what we alone can hold and have for them might offer them a new life. Saint Rita is asking us foremost to never give up on what we want for ourselves, and she's suggesting that the path to what we desire is in our belief that it is still possible. We might not know how or when things will align for us, but we can participate in a deep prayer and bone trust that at some point what we most desire will arrive. And so the soul voice meditation here is, what do I believe is possible for my life? And the intention, I am miraculous. My prayers create powerful channels of possibility. So pull one more card from the World Offering deck for this new moon partial solar eclipse energy. That didn't feel right. So while I'm shuffling the cards, I will just say thank you very much to those of you who have subscribed to my channel, who have commented, shared, liked my videos. If you haven't done that, please could you do so, because it really does help my channel to be recognised by the platform it's on. And because I tend to be quite controversial in many ways about things that I say, it is difficult to actually find my channel. If you type the name in, it is not easily found. So any comments, any likes or thumbs, like the thumbs up, basically the likes or the sharing, is very, very much appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so as well, and hit that bell that will let you know as and when my videos are being put out there. I don't really receive any notifications, so I tend not to really know what's been said until I actually go onto the channel and find out for myself. So we have compassion, which is as you pray each day for greater compassion, a new self is born. Drawing new people and experiences. Dear Lord, help me feel ever deepening self-acceptance. May I see myself as you see me. Again, compassion for the self, which is what releasing our emotional baggage is really all about. So I'm going to leave that there and say again, thank you very much for being here, for listening to me, for watching my videos all the way through. Please enjoy the rest of this partial solar eclipse, new moon in Scorpio energy. Stay as grounded as you possibly can. Try not to go to extremes one way or another. And hopefully I will see you next time. Well, actually I will hopefully see you in the tarot reading that I will be doing, because normally I would do the tarot reading before I do the astrology, but I really wanted to get the astrology out there because I think it's quite an important one at this time. So my astrology reading is coming up first, and then the second part of this solar eclipse energy will be the tarot reading, which I will be putting out later, at a later date. So again, thank you, take good care of yourselves, and hopefully see you soon.